We're here to talk Freddy versus Jason in another retrospective thoughts video. Almost done with the Elm Street franchise. I got one more after this, and then I'm moving on to, spoiler alert, moving on to the Evil Dead franchise. So I'm sure you want to join me for those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bro, that'll
Horror
be
franchise.
fun. But yeah, we're here to talk Freddy versus Jason, released in 2003, directed by Ronnie Yu. This movie came out 10 years after the final teaser in Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, which was epic at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, Freddy versus Jason, I will admit, it's got a lot of flaws to it, and I recognize those flaws. I understand how a lot of people don't like this movie, but with all that being said, this is one of those movies, man, where it's like I know how bad it is, but this is a guilty pleasure. I have so much fun watching. It's just entertaining to me. I have fun watching this movie. It's fun. Like I said, I get its flaws. I understand a lot of flaws in this movie. I can see them myself, and I can see why a lot of people don't like this movie, but I genuinely have fun with this movie. It's just a fun, turn my brain off, popcorn, Freddy and Jason going ballistic on each other. There's a lot I don't really care for in this movie, obviously, but man, it's just fun to me, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be honest, the first time I saw this movie, I freaking hated it. I
Yeah,
really did. Because you think of you build up Freddy versus Jason in your mind so much, and I think I just overhyped it in my head to something it just could have never realistically been. And so
that makes sense.
when I watched it, this was genuinely one of my least favorite movies. Like I hated it. I was
Wow.
I was too young to appreciate the awesome martial arts style and that type of filmmaking that Ronnie Yu was able to implement to the fight scenes. But now that I appreciate all that, I freaking love this movie. I watched this movie multiple times this year already, and I watched it again just the other night. And it's just such a fun thrill ride. It's like this movie is like you dug up a time capsule of 2003, and this is what 2003 was.
Oh yeah, and this movie has a lot of nostalgia for me because this came out in 2003, dude. I was in high school, the fucking prime peak of high school, skateboarding days. We literally, I can't remember what movie we bought tickets to, but we went to the movie theaters, bought tickets. We snuck into Freddy versus Jason. I'll never forget that. It was such a fun fucking time, and I was with like six of my buddies, and we had a good time watching. It was just fun. It was a fun, energetic movie. At the time, it was like I wasn't really into movies and I wasn't really into the filmmaking stuff. I was just a skateboarder kid, in high school. We were just having fun, dude. But going back, the more I watched it over the years, yeah, the more flaws I see. But at the time, dude, I'll never forget that sneaking in to see this movie. It was such a fun night, man. And that's why this movie kind of holds a special place with me, just because of that nostalgia for stuff like that. And the high school days. It reminds me of high school when I watch it. You're totally right. It is a time capsule of 2003. The alternative shit, there's just this movie is so 2003. It hurts, man. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a lot of there's a lot of movies that I love just because they're time capsule movies, not necessarily because they're good movies. This isn't one of them, but yeah, I just love movies that just really showcase just a specific period of time because it's something that you just come to appreciate in retrospect years later when you really look back at it and you're like, now I'm kind of glad I have this movie to remember that period of time.
Yeah, man. I also got to shout out Monica Keena, who played Lori, the lead actress. I thought she gave a really good performance. Some of the supporting cast was a little hit or miss, kind of bland characters. I didn't care for some of them. Jason Ritter, John Ritter, the late John Ritter's son, played Will. I enjoyed his character and his little side buddy. I can't remember his name. He was the kid from Air Bud. That's all I remember. But those two characters, they're in the asylum or mental ward, whatever. I like how their storylines got brought into Freddy's storyline. I thought that was really, really inventive. How they brought in the hypnosil and the medicine and stuff that they had to take to stay awake, and his death sequence was really well done too. He sees his brother in the fucking bathtub and shit. It's just so frightening, man. And that's what I love about this movie too, is they have a lot of really good frightening Freddy sequences. Jason, not so much, but of course Jason's just slash and go. But this movie really played up the Freddy stuff, especially my favorite is Lori in the police station, where she like puts her head in her hands and she falls asleep and she wakes up and you have the creepy little girl there with the eyes bloodied out or whatever. But really good Freddy stuff in this movie. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, and I loved how this movie really puts Freddy and Jason in all of the scenarios you want to see them in. You see them in a boiler room, you see them at a lake, you see them on
Yeah.
each of their own turf. And I also love I think my favorite scene in the movie is when Jason is asleep and Freddy's in Jason's dream. We've never
Yeah.
That's badass, and
That was
if
cool.
I'm so glad they thought of that, because if they hadn't thought of that and they didn't put that in this movie, it would have been a huge missed opportunity. So yeah, that's one of my I think that's probably my favorite part of this movie. And I think you could edit together, even if you wanted to cut out the Jason stuff and you wanted to make a Freddy movie. There's enough in this to make not a whole Freddy movie. This movie's really short as it is, but you could make a really cool edit of like a Freddy short film or something
Yeah, you could. You
from the
could.
movie.
Yeah, this movie was like what, 80 something minutes? It was pretty short.
Yeah, it's a breeze to
Shit.
get fun. It's a fun movie to watch with friends, have a couple of drinks, just have a good time. It's one of those.
Yeah, man. Before we get out of here, I got to talk about my favorite kill. Uh, it's got to be. There's a lot of really cool kills in this movie. There's some honorable mentions of the one I just talked about, but I got to say my favorite is the tray guy in the bed with the Jason fucking folding them up into like a fucking sandwich. Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
shit, man. Just unique and inventive kills like that. Just always, it's just brutal, bro. And I think it just made it better because he was such a dick and you hated this guy. He was such an asshole, disrespectful guy to his girl. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably got to be my favorite kill in this movie.
Yeah. And I think what makes that kill even better is that it's Jason in Nancy Thompson's house.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something you never really thought you'd see.
That's cool that you brought that up, man. That was a good way to tie that into the original with Nancy's house. I really liked that.
Yeah.
So overall, man, like I said, I get it. I get why people don't like this movie. I see a lot of flaws in it, but it's one of those things where I don't mind it, man. It's just that's what it is. It's a guilty pleasure. Like I like this movie. It's fun. It's enjoyable, and it is what it is. I like it. It's fun.
It knows exactly what to be, and it succeeded in what it was trying to be. So yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
exactly. Well, with all that said, we're gonna get out of here. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.